I think that the export question is that people assume that there will be barriers, that it will be really difficult, that they won't get paid, that they can't speak the language. For me, I think that's more excuses than barriers. I think it's because businesses notoriously are very good at solving problems and powering through regardless of what's happening, because they're quite short-sighted. And when you start looking at longer term plans, which I'd say export would probably fall into, they are less able to do it. And part of that is, without being too critical, is because the leaders of the companies are not always fully equipped to take the business to the next level. So that will segue nicely into, when we talk a bit later about preparing people as they come into the workplace to have that sort of vision of global, sales, global activity that isn't there at the moment.
So that's one of the big opportunities around sort of internationalization and sort of going a little bit more global. What are the other opportunities that you see for businesses here?
I think certainly businesses that are in Surrey are in a very vibrant, very creative area. And I think, there is a lot to be said for collaboration and for looking around and seeing, you might be using a particular method or technology for something you're doing, but that could be used in a very different way in a different sector. And I think certainly here at the university there are opportunities to sort of really have a look at those different technologies and how might they be used differently. And I know there have been certainly in the last few years there have been situations where people have been brought together. Obviously 5G opens the door to all sorts of things, but again I think we can do more to get businesses talking 5G, because I think still it's still everybody thinks they know what it is and they think they know what it's going to do, but it's actually the applications which we could get that message out a bit stronger.
But I don't know what it does for them.
To actually demonstrate how could it help what you're actually doing. Yes.
In your particular sector, how it is related to what you, in which industry you're in, basically.
Yeah. And I think, the other thing is taking up some of the business support that's available. When organisations get a bit of funding, although we don't get much in Surrey, if I'm really honest, but if there is a bit of funding to support businesses to develop, so, take the example of the Growth Hub, there is some funding to support scale up and, growing businesses, and they're doing a great job and there's some fantastic case studies, but people are not queuing at the door for it. They have to do a real sales exercise and marketing, through all the different partners to even get people to think about coming along. There is still that need to get the messages out there and for those businesses to think, do you know what, I could do with a bit of help. And that comes onto the leadership question.
Okay.
So we see a lot of companies go through where they might join the chamber and there's a couple of people, and it's brilliant. These are our favourites because, and I've been around quite a while, so I've seen a few of them. But you suddenly realise 10 years later that they're now a 40-person organisation and that they've grown during that 10 years. But of course, during that growth, if you think of all the different changes that a business goes through, when there's a couple of you, and in some cases it's partners or husband and wife or whatever, you just get on and do what you have to do, and then you employ somebody, and then all of a sudden, you've got pension auto-enrolment, you've got HR issues that you have to comply with, health and safety, and as it grows, different things kick in. So you really need that sort of help. And I think businesses are quite good on the the sort of regulation side, but they're not always very good at recognising the different leadership styles that they might need to bring into the game. You know, running your own business with half a dozen people is very different to then having 40. So, and again, there's quite a lot of help offered to people, even taster sessions, and then, you know, paid for, obviously, but help just really to look at leadership and how it's changing, because, by the way, the people that you're employing are changing. We've all witnessed the sort of generational studies that have been done, and how we all react in a different way at work depending on which, I mean, I don't really like generalisations, but I can also see the value and the truth in how our 20-something-year-olds are in the workplace and how our 50-something-year-olds are in the workplace. Very different place we start from, and unless you can understand, you know, the differences as a leader, you can't, one size does not fit all.